Hello, this is Sam Simon, also known as Dementia Man. And boy, do I have a special guest for our blog for this week. Um, and it's an unlikely guest. And you can see him on the um, screen here, Abraham and Ajanifuja. I hope I did that right. Is that right? You can say it.
Yes, 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 you got it. Again, Fuja, yeah.
Wow. All right. We are unlikely sojourners on an amazingly similar journey. And um, I was on LinkedIn and he noticed the name of my play and we introduced and we found out that we see the world and we're dealing with a part of the world that I didn't even know existed. And my play and my life was originally about or was as a lawyer. I was out there very tangible, and then I had a moment in life where um, Susan, my wife of then 34 years, excuse me, got very sick. The doctors pulled me aside and said that they didn't expect her to survive. And in my journey with that, getting ready to hold her as she took her last breath, I became aware of something different. That there was a relationship that can become connected in an integral way. That Susan and I were a singularity. I wrote about and I did a one-person play about us becoming one, that I was the other half of who she was. And that's not physical. We weren't one body, but that it is possible to, you see how I do my hands. Um, but what is that? What was that? I've come to understand in some ways a spiritual interconnecting. And now I'm on my own journey where I value with my own diagnosis of Alzheimer's and facing a terminal diagnosis. I'm doing very well. But then there are these voices in the world that are talking about life with disease is not worth living. And um, I'm being very responsive to that. But what in our brief moments, getting to meet each other and to learn what Abraham's doing and how I'm struggling with I say struggling, but articulating this concept
Yes.
of meaning, and it's almost philosophy, but uh, he talks about his soul journey. Um, I talk about existential, but it is that there is something in and of us. And so I've been delighted, and we're going to have a conversation together about the joy of meeting each other and hopefully articulating some of that understanding in ways that will be helpful to those who listen. So, with that, Abraham, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Sam. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I would say that the fact of providence brought us together. And I want to acknowledge you first before I talk about myself. What caught my attention about you, Sam, is the word existential on your profile, which is a passion of mine. And we connected that way. And when we finally met, I believe it was last week or so, within a few minutes, I also discovered that we share something in common. That's been a contrarian. Sam, I
Troublemaker,
love
I call it troublemaker, but go ahead.
I love your take, man. I love it. I love it. And so, I really wanted to meet you. I wanted to know you, and I'm very glad that you invited me to your platform. Basically, I would call myself the VIP soul economist. Okay, VIP soul economy because we are on a soul journey, and the way we live a healthy, wealthy, longer, productive life is how we live that economy of the soul. Okay. So in my journey, in fact, for a long time, I've always been a very curious person. I don't know whether it's because my training as an accountant or in my spiritual journey or in my biochemistry journey, somewhere along that line, I had a curiosity about life. Existentialism means a big deal to me. I wanted to know the reason of life. I wanted to know the purpose of life. I wanted to know what is it about memory of life. What does life mean? So that curiosity drove me into a period of searching for myself. That I read books, I listened to interviews, I read autobiography. I'm a Christian. I studied the Bible. I prayed. That led me to write my first book, The VIP Christian. That for a Christian to be successful in life, they must have a way to articulate their vision, their intent, and purpose. And so I took that same framework, and from there, I created a soul intelligence. The soul intelligence that is necessary to live a well, resourceful life, a healthy, wealthy life, that no matter what comes in between our potential and our purpose, we can use our economy of our soul and soul intelligence to overcome it. So I do not buy the popular gurus of the world who are so focused on the mind alone. Everything is terminal. If something is wrong with somebody, they can't do something, it's because something is wrong with it. They either call it subconsciousness or they call it limiting mindset. It's about the mind, but that is not the truth. That's not the whole story. It is not a mindset, but it's soul set. And so that's why I bring to the table to apply into different sectors of the economy that soul set is where the answer is. And soul intelligence is a method of doing that. So that's why I'm here today to speak with my friend Sam and to enjoy getting to know you and to, hopefully we can put some kind of blessing to your audience, and also that we are both on the same track. You are Jewish, I'm Christian. There's a lot of history that connects us together. I love Jewish people. I really, really do. And I told you that last time because it's a very integral part of Christianity.
This really does make me, first of all, I think just having a conversation is useful for people. I don't think typically people live in this state or a world. I remember when I was doing my other play, and we were discussing with the audience, and I talked about how I was feeling about Susan and the time, my feeling. And somebody in the audience says, "My husband had, I don't know, a fainting spell and was going to the hospital. I ran to get our will. I didn't have a vision of being with him or run with him." And in some ways, I hadn't thought about it before. That is almost a demonstration of the opposite. And it doesn't happen right away. I don't want to, you might say something about it. I mean, we're all adults and human beings, and the physical pleasures or our goals and ego, which, by the way, I'm curious, we haven't asked about that. I think the biggest challenge to the soul side of things is ego, and who am I and why I should be in charge of everything. Almost accepting when you realize you can't always. And there's another element I'm popped in my mind, so I'm going to say it now. There's also this why me movement. It used to be more in the breast cancer, it's gone. but it was, oh, I've got cancer. Why me? I have Alzheimer's. Why me? Poor me. What did I do wrong?
Mm.
You know, the randomness of the universe. I don't believe in being punished because I may have done something wrong in my life.
Mm. Mm.
I'm gonna get crude here. Shit happens. Bad things happen. The the biggest point, the biggest opportunity and challenge is finding meaning in that moment for us. They become existential.
Mhm.
It um, you know, I was thinking back to there are other things, but it takes a while. Um, you know, I could I sometimes think, I wonder whether it always was in me. But I had, we'll talk, but um, what is there, if somebody's listening saying, well, I wonder how I could change, or do I need to change? How do I give myself a grade, or what are things I could do? What is your view of, if I want to be on my soul journey? And I think you use that
Yes.
phrase. What are some of the things one could begin to do, or think to help in sort of, maybe it's even a search a little bit, or
Mhm.
spend some time trying to see how I don't think it's anything wrong with me as much as how I can be more, find a meaningful way forward.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Well, there are a couple of things. We first of all, we all have this unique identity. It's different from anybody. Okay. And so the way we're going to approach where we need to start is going to be different because we are all a function of the environment where we grew up, okay, the family where we grew up in, the schools and what we studied in college, the training that we had. Those things form uh, an experience for us. We grew up, we had that experience, and it's unique to everybody, okay? And from that experience, we also develop a set of beliefs that we live by, okay? Because it serves us. It, to somebody else, maybe a wrong belief, but to us, it serves us. So that's all we know. We live by that. And then we base our action based on that belief and our feelings. So it is only when we are having difficulty in our journey in life, our soul journey in life, that we begin to, if somebody meets a good consultant or a coach, we begin to examine those assumptions that we have lived for throughout our life to see if they have expired, and we need to be willing to examine other truth of life in this journey that we all have. So for me, that would be taking an assessment. I will give an assessment, you know. From that assessment, I can know, you know, what kind of belief they depend on, what assumptions or truth that they believe about um, that belief. And if they strongly, strongly believe that that is the only thing they're going to live by, then I will help them to live by it. So I can help them solve that problem that they came to me for. But if they come to the conviction that, you know, perhaps my assumption is not correct, then I will help them to examine another assumption because all the time it's a cognitive process happening. The way we think, the way we see things, the way we interpret things around us, the way we interpret our own reality in life. You know, so when we go through the assessment and I meet with them, what I'm doing then is I'm helping them to examine their cognitive system, you know, and how they interpret that to become something they live by. And, you know, divinity and providence is so powerful that it will allow us to choose what we want to choose. But at the same time, we also give us the grace to know that uh, what we have relied on in the past.
I'm interested, but I think of some of those, you know, I did psychotherapy at one point, you know, you lost confidence in my ability to manage people. And by the way, the hardest thing to do in business is manage people. And I think there was a period of time I was the worst boss in the world. So, but I ended up feeling so bad about stuff and myself and how I was doing it. They didn't teach me how to be a boss as much as to get me out of the ditch.
Mm.
We can easily go into, and that's true too when you're confronted with existential moments in life. I think what, you know, how do we find an openness or a sense to listen? I've been so privileged by just having friends, and you know, I look back on um, weird moments that at the time it's like, God, I would never have wanted to happen. You know, I was
Mm.
with my mother. She took her last breath, and she was in
Mm.
her mid 60s, and but I
Mm.
had an experience then, a spiritual experience that so shook me that I thought it had been hallucinating, and
Mm.
but now I believe it was real. But and it's there are others. When you get fired, maybe, and was I ever fired? Almost. There were times when I didn't do well at my job, but that's job. But that kind of thing goes existential quickly, I think,
Mhm.
in our society today, and that we confuse some of that.
Mhm.
The I don't write well, or I made a mistake, or we even had a moment where a really critical client, one of my people made a big mistake. They were being sued because of the mistake, and boy, but it's not. That's every day. There is this bigger, deeper meaning. So I'm reminded there is a suicide movement or end of life movement,
Mhm.
particularly around people who have cognitive disorders, dementia. I hate the word.
Mhm.
And there's a book out there where the man who is diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's, which is what I have, is quoted as having said, "I don't want to die, but I don't want to keep becoming a lesser and lesser person."
Mhm.
What he needed to understand is, and he ended up with his wife's help. And her book is about how hard it was to get to Switzerland. And he did end his life.
Mm.
And, you know, I am not a lesser person. And I won't be a lesser person because I don't remember or because I will now maybe have an entirely different personality. I had a friend who I read the obituary, and he had gone to Switzerland. And he said, I don't want to keep being a burden to my family.
Mm.
Life is more important. And we need as a society, by the way, not to let the financial burdens in these moments
Mhm.
overwhelm people. But finding a way to be in touch with something spiritual within us. I've been so lucky,
Mhm.
I think, and I don't know how you offer it to people. And part of it might be willingness to believe. I don't know. I'm almost like I'm here for a session, Abraham. I want to know, why was it that when my friend passed away and I was asked to say something at a religious service, and but before it started, I had a moment. I mean, not a little moment. I mean, I thought something had hit me. Thought I was having a stroke. It was so hard in my head, and I grabbed my wife, and there he spoke to me.
Mm.
I mean, I can't explain it. It sounds, people hear this and they probably roll their eyes. It's never happened before. And I'm telling you, I thought I was having a stroke. And she said, Sam, everything's going to be just fine. His voice. I've never had that happen with anybody or whatever. So there is another plane. There is another place, I believe, and it's within us.
Yes.
Now I'm telling you maybe your story, but how do we find that? How do we live with that belief? I mentioned earlier to you, I'm a fan of the Jewish philosopher Abraham
Mhm.
Joshua Heschel, who talks about I and now, that there is this it
Mhm.
part of people, the it being just, the everyday, you touch something, you eat your food, go, and then there's the thou, that is our existential soul presence in the world,
Mhm.
the universe.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that I'm very attracted to in your work, is that you can give it an expression, and the idea that we can work on it,
Yes.
that we can. There are both perhaps exercises, talking with somebody about it, under being open to it, and maybe a little bit. I don't know if you have anything to say on this. Letting go of control.
Yeah. 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 Well, the concept of existentialism, soul journey, um, reference point for every individual on the face of the earth is if they can remember when divinity came in contact with their humanity. Something happens when divinity touches humanity. It creates the foundation and template for our soul journey on earth. That is where we get a passion for living. That no matter what, no matter the obstacles, we are going to succeed in what divinity has deposited in our soul. That's where we get the dignity of our life, of our identity in the world. That no matter what is going on around us, we believe that we can, we will, and we have. So our journey here on earth is an experiential journey of what has already been finished.
Mm.
Because with God, there's no time. God is timeless, right? The beginning and the end. There's no gap as far as he's concerned. So when we are in that soul connection with him, we are timeless.
And it's called also known as infinity. And humans cannot, at least the theory is humans cannot actually conceive of that. Or
Absolutely. Yeah. The human mind is so finite, it cannot grasp its hand around in infinity or in infinite God. It's impossible. So, but because we are who we are, the ego comes into place. You mentioned that earlier, the ego, which somebody wrote a book one time ago. I don't know the author. The ego stands for edging God out.
I hadn't heard that. Edging God out.
Yes, we rely
I'm in
on
control. Right?
exactly, exactly. So because of that, then we fall into, a category of being recessive in our soul journey.
Huh.
We are not living up to capacity. And that recessiveness becomes an object for the septic wall around us. It attracts septic, wall that makes the soul journey more difficult.
Yeah.
So when we do the assessment, we can find out if we have been living a recessive journey or we want to live a dominant journey. And so I do that assessment with people, and I have programs to help them to, put them where they want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Your website is under your name there, souldrivenleadership.com.
Mhm.
People know how to reach me at dimensionman.com. But no, I would hope they reach out. I worry that we could talk forever, and I don't want people to leave us. I think soul journeys, though, for so many, and that when we have something happen to us in our life and our family, um, there are various moments. So I did want to mention one. When other times do we think? Here are some times that I think, I don't want to project or tell anybody, but what is provoked me to think about it was, well, what are some of the special times that, I've talked about the moment with my mother, but we have 2 children and 4 grandchildren, and we were present for. I wasn't present for my children because they were both C-sections, and in the day you weren't allowed anywhere close to that.
Mm.
But we were just outside the room for one of our granddaughters' birthday, but we were just outside the grandparents. But it's I think the first time I ever heard the first cry of a baby,
Mm.
and I thought that was a soul moment.
Amen.
Just from literally, I mean, I say, look. Anyway, I thought that was just amazing. It's odd, but we have those moments. There were moments with Susan when I thought it might be our last moment together,
Mm.
and you know, and it's a little different when it's my turn, but I work hard. And I'll end with this because you talked about working on it. And I know we talked about that. I mentioned Susan and I work on not going into that ditch and not, poor us. And it requires consciousness. Again, I think you're saying that too. Awareness that it is easy to give up. It's easy to blame ourselves or something.
Mhm.
But there is a sacred nature of this journey, and we have to talk about it affirmatively. What we'll look forward to, how we'll work together, the joys that we want, and not on, well, will you make it this year, and what if this happens, and what if that happens? I mean, again, routine planning for this intelligent people we should do, but the soul work does take, and I think it's what you're saying too.
Mhm.
It takes work. It takes affirmative awareness, and it is part of, want to be a sharpshooter, you need to be a soul worker. You need practice, 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 practice. I don't know,
Yes.
do you have any final words? Otherwise, I think we can let our audience get on with their life.
Well, the final word I have to say is that everyone has a purpose in life. It's uniquely different, it's time sensitive, it's irreversible, it's indestructible, but also at the same time, it's inscrutable because it's a mystery. And living in that mystery is what brings spice to life. That every moment is a highly passionate life. That no matter what is happening on the external, we must have the internal differentiation of who we are and awareness of our dignity to represent divinity here on earth. And by so doing, we attract and persuade people about our life. We build a community, we leave a legacy. You are doing the work of the soul journey, my friend.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I just admire that. And I just feel for you for the separation from your wife, but you are taking that to do something about it and take a new solution to the public so that people can live longer so they can fulfill their purpose. That's what we are both doing, to help people live longer so they can fulfill their purpose.
To fulfill their purpose. That's a great way to end this. Thank you for your time. I hope people get your book and be in touch. And I'm looking forward for you and me to figure out a way to get together sometime and with a real live audience. And, I also love, not everybody's going to sign up for this idea. And I've got I got a good friend who is an aggressive, I say aggressive, but very firm belief that it's just all chemistry. And he's a very good friend. We have great conversations, but
That's good.
I think, and I have another friend who I'm going on now, but says, well, I'm going to say, maybe you're right. So let's assume that. But at any rate, great conversations. I hope it's conversations that others can be involved in this, provoked, and that this can be helpful as people face challenges in
Yes.
life.
Yes.
That they understand that it's something that beyond the physicalness can be dealt with meaning and joy, by the way, too. It's hidden in there sometimes, but it's there. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm going to